I still remember the way my daughter's eyes filled with tears that day. It was supposed to be a happy occasion, my parents' 40th wedding anniversary dinner at their lakeside home. My husband couldn't make it because of a business trip, so it was just me and my 12-year-old daughter, Lily. Everyone was there. My parents, my older brother, Mark, and his perfect wife, Diana, my younger sister, Jessica, with her husband, and their 2 children, who could apparently do no wrong in anyone's eyes. The table was beautifully set on the back patio, overlooking the water, with the expensive china my mother only brought out for special occasions. I should have known something was off when Mark kept smirking at Diana whenever he looked in our direction. My brother and I had never been close. Even as children, he'd always found ways to make me feel small, insignificant. But I thought surely, as adults in our 40s, we'd moved past that childish behavior. Lily has always been a quiet, sensitive girl. She loves art and spends hours drawing in her sketchbook. That evening, she'd worn her favorite dress, the pale blue one with tiny butterflies along the hem that she'd saved up her allowance to buy. She wanted to look nice for her grandparents' anniversary. I remember feeling so proud watching her carefully set down her gift for them on the table with all the others. "Well, look who decided to show up," Mark said when we arrived, though we were exactly on time. "Where's that husband of yours? Too busy for family again?" I forced a smile. "He sends his love. He had an important conference that couldn't be rescheduled." "Of course he did," Mark replied with a knowing look at Diana, as if they shared some private joke. Dinner started pleasantly enough. My mother had prepared her famous pot roast, and everyone was enjoying the food. Lily was quiet, picking at her meal. She'd been placed at the far end of the table, away from her cousins who were huddled together, whispering and giggling occasionally. "So, Andrea," my mother said, turning to me, "how's the job search going?" I felt my cheeks flush. I'd been laid off 3 months earlier when my company downsized. It wasn't something I liked discussing, especially since Mark never missed an opportunity to remind everyone how successful his investment firm was doing. "I've had a few promising interviews," I said, trying to sound optimistic. "Actually, I've been thinking about starting my own graphic design business. I've already lined up a couple of potential clients." "A business?" Mark scoffed. "That's a bit ambitious, isn't it? Most small businesses fail within the first year." "I think it's a great idea," my father interjected, giving me a supportive smile that I appreciated more than he knew. "Mum's really talented," Lily piped up, her first word since we'd sat down. "She designed the logo for my school's art club, and everyone loved it." Mark rolled his eyes. "Well, designing logos for children's clubs isn't exactly going to pay the bills, is it?" I felt the familiar sting of his dismissal, but chose to ignore it. "We're managing just fine," I said firmly. The conversation drifted to other topics. My sister Jessica was talking about the vacation her family had just taken to the Bahamas, a trip they made sure to document extensively on social media. Diana was showing off her new diamond bracelet, a just because gift from Mark. When dessert time came, my mother brought out a beautiful cake with 40 years written in elegant frosting. We all sang "Happy Anniversary," and my parents shared a sweet kiss that made me smile despite the tension in the air. Maybe the evening would end on a positive note after all. As my mother served cake, my father poured drinks for everyone, champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for the children. Lily looked pleased to have her drink served in one of my mother's crystal glasses, just like the adults. She was just about to take a sip when Mark leaned over. "Wait," he said, his voice carrying across the table. "I think your glass needs something special." Before I could process what was happening, he dropped something into Lily's glass. The liquid splashed slightly, and Lily jerked back. There was a moment of confused silence, and then Lily screamed. Floating in her crystal glass was a cockroach. "Mark!" I stood up immediately. "What are you doing?" Instead of apologizing, my brother burst into laughter. Diana covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking with poorly concealed amusement. Even my sister Jessica was smirking. "It fits her," Mark said between laughs. "Little bug girl with her weird drawings." Lily's face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she stared at the insect in her drink. My mother simply sighed and said, "Oh, Mark, really?" in the same tone she'd used when we were children and he'd done something mildly annoying. My father frowned, but remained silent. No one moved to help Lily or confront Mark. "It's just a joke, Andrea," Diana said, seeing my expression. "Don't be so sensitive." "A joke?" I echoed, my voice rising. "You think humiliating my daughter is funny?" "Come on, it's not real," Mark said, still chuckling. "It's a plastic roach from the novelty store. Lighten up." Lily pushed back her chair, the wooden legs scraping against the patio stones. "It's not plastic," she whispered. "It's moving." I looked closer and felt my stomach turn. She was right. It was a real cockroach, its legs twitching in the liquid. "Jesus, Mark. What is wrong with you?" I grabbed napkins from the table and quickly removed the glass from in front of Lily. "It's just a bug," Mark shrugged. "Not like I poisoned her. The way she's acting, you'd think I committed some horrible crime." My parents exchanged a glance but said nothing. Their silence felt like a betrayal as sharp as Mark's cruelty. "Look at her crying," Mark continued. "Just proving my point. Too sensitive for her own good. Just like her mother." I felt something break inside me. A dam holding back years of allowing Mark's behavior to go unchallenged, of enduring his belittling comments, of watching him treat me and now my daughter with casual cruelty while everyone looked the other way. "We're leaving," I said, my voice cold and steady. I put my arm around Lily's trembling shoulders. "Lily, get your things." "Oh, don't be dramatic." My mother finally spoke up. "It was just a silly prank." Mark apologized to Lily so we can all enjoy the rest of the evening. Mark rolled his eyes. "Sorry your mom can't take a joke," he said to Lily, not sounding sorry at all. "That's not an apology," I said. "Fine. Sorry I put a bug in your drink, Lily. Happy now?" His tone made it clear he was only saying the words to placate my mother, not because he felt any real remorse. Lily looked up at me, her eyes red and wet. "Can we please go, Mum?" she whispered. I nodded. "Yes, we're going. Right now. Andrea," my father finally spoke, "don't leave like this. It's our anniversary." For a moment I hesitated. I'd never walked out on a family gathering before. I'd always been the one to smooth things over, to let things slide, to keep the peace. But the sight of my daughter's tears changed everything. This wasn't about me anymore. "I'm sorry, Dad," I said quietly, "but I won't sit here and let anyone treat my daughter this way. Not even family, especially not family." As we turned to leave, Mark called after us. "Always so dramatic. This is why nobody takes either of you seriously." I paused at the doorway, turning back to face my family. They all stared at me. My brother smirking, my sister-in-law bemused, my sister uncomfortable but silent, my parents concerned but unwilling to truly intervene. "This isn't about being dramatic," I said, my voice steady despite the anger and hurt churning inside me. "This is about respect, and clearly that's something you know nothing about, Mark." Then I took Lily's hand and we walked out. The drive home was quiet. Lily stared out the window, occasionally wiping away tears. I kept replaying the scene in my mind, growing more furious with each passing mile, not just at Mark, but at myself. For how long had I allowed him to treat me this way? How many times had I laughed off his jokes, accepted his backhanded compliments, ignored his subtle digs? And now he'd turned that behavior toward my daughter. The thought made my hands tighten on the steering wheel. "I'm sorry, Mom," Lily finally said, her voice small. I nearly pulled over. I was so shocked. "Lily, no. You have absolutely nothing to be sorry for." "But I ruined Grandma and Grandpa's anniversary," she said. "And I know Uncle Mark was just joking." "Stop," I said firmly. "What your uncle did wasn't a joke. It was mean and deliberate, and none of it was your fault. Do you understand me? None of it." She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. When we got home, I made her favorite hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. We sat on the couch together, and I held her until her tears subsided. That night, I tucked her in like I used to when she was younger. "Mom?" she asked as I was about to turn off her light. "Why does Uncle Mark hate me?" The question broke my heart. "Oh, sweetheart, your uncle doesn't hate you. He's someone who makes himself feel bigger by making other people feel small. It's not about you at all. It's about him and his own problems." "But everyone else thought it was funny too," she said, her voice wavering, "like there's something wrong with me." I sat back down on her bed. "There is absolutely nothing wrong with you, Lily. Nothing. You are kind, creative, and wonderful exactly as you are. The people who can't see that, that's their loss." After Lily fell asleep, I called my husband James and told him what happened. His anger matched mine. "That's it," he said. "We're done with these family dinners. I'm not having Lily exposed to that kind of treatment." I agreed with him, but something inside me knew that simply avoiding my family wasn't the answer. Mark needed to understand that his actions had consequences. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from my mother. I listened to her voicemail as I made coffee. "Andrea, I hope you've calmed down. Mark says you're overreacting, and honestly, I think he might be right. It was just a harmless prank. Call me back so we can put this behind us." I deleted the message without returning the call. Instead, I spent the morning working on my portfolio for my fledgling design business. Around noon, my phone rang again. This time it was my father. "Andrea," he said when I answered, "your mother is upset that you haven't called back." "I'm sorry she's upset," I replied, trying to keep my voice even, "but I'm not ready to talk about last night." Mark said he apologized. "What more do you want?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Dad, he put a real cockroach in Lily's drink and then mocked her for being upset about it. That wasn't an apology. It was another insult." My father sighed. "You know how Mark is. He doesn't always think before he acts. He's 45 years old, Dad, not 12. And this isn't the first time he's done something like this. It's just the first time he's targeted Lily instead of me." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "What do you mean? Are you seriously asking me that?" I felt a surge of frustration. The constant put-downs, the belittling comments, the way he always has to make me look bad in front of everyone. "You and Mom have been watching it happen our entire lives." "He's just teasing," my father said weakly. "That's what siblings do." "No, Dad, that's not what siblings do. That's what bullies do." I took a deep breath. "Look, I need some time. Please tell Mom I'll call her in a few days when I've had a chance to process all this." After I hung up, I found Lily in her room, drawing in her sketchbook. She'd created a beautiful rendering of a butterfly with intricate patterns on its wings. Her talent always amazed me. "That's gorgeous," I told her, sitting beside her on the bed. She gave me a small smile. "Thanks, I'm thinking about entering it in the school art contest." "You absolutely should," I encouraged her. "It's stunning work." Lily hesitated, then said, "Uncle Mark said my drawings were weird. Are they weird, Mom?" I felt a fresh surge of anger. "Your uncle doesn't know the first thing about art. Your drawings are beautiful and meaningful and important, just like you." She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. Mark's words had taken root, and it would take more than my reassurance to uproot them. That afternoon, I received a text from my sister Jessica. "You really upset Mom and Dad by walking out last night. Mark says he's sorry if you took his joke the wrong way. Can we all move on?" I stared at the message for a long time before responding. This isn't about me being upset. This is about Mark's behavior and everyone enabling it. Until he gives a genuine apology to Lily, not to me, there's nothing to move on from. Jessica didn't reply. 2 days passed. I focused on building my portfolio and submitting proposals to potential clients. Lily seemed to be recovering from the incident, though I noticed she was quieter than usual. On the 3rd day after the dinner, I received an unexpected call from Diana, Mark's wife. "Andrea," she said, her voice tense. "Have you spoken to Mark since the dinner?" "No," I replied shortly. "He hasn't reached out to apologize to Lily, so I have nothing to say to him." Diana made a frustrated sound. "This isn't about your hurt feelings anymore. Mark's in trouble, and I thought you should know." My heart sank. Despite everything, he was still my brother. "What kind of trouble?" "Professional trouble," Diana said. "One of his biggest clients pulled their account yesterday. They said they'd seen concerning behavior that made them question his judgment." I frowned, confused. "What does that have to do with me?" "Someone sent them a video." Diana's voice was accusatory now. "A video of Mark putting that thing in your daughter's drink and laughing about it. Now they're telling other clients." I felt like I'd been doused with cold water. "Diana, I didn't record anything that night. And I certainly didn't send a video to anyone." "Then who did?" she demanded. "No one else would have a reason to do this." My mind raced, trying to piece together what might have happened. Then I remembered my niece, Mark's daughter, had been recording parts of the anniversary celebration on her phone. She'd been capturing moments for a commemorative video she was making for my parents. "Maybe Chloe's video caught it," I suggested. "She was recording a lot that night." "That's ridiculous," Diana snapped. "Chloe wouldn't send something like that to her father's clients." "I didn't say she would," I replied, "but maybe someone else saw the video." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Diana said, "Mark thinks you did this deliberately to hurt him, to get back at him for a stupid joke." "It wasn't a joke, Diana, it was cruel, and I didn't send any video to anyone." "His reputation is damaged," Diana continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "These clients have been with him for years. Do you know how much money he's going to lose?" "That's unfortunate," I said, finding it hard to muster much sympathy. "But maybe this will help him understand that actions have consequences." "How dare you?" Diana hissed. "After everything Mark's done for you." I nearly laughed. "What exactly has Mark ever done for me except tear me down at every opportunity?" "He loaned you money when you were struggling after your divorce from Lily's father," Diana shot back. "He gave you a place to stay when you couldn't afford rent, and he's never let me forget it," I replied. "He brings it up at every family gathering as if helping your sister when she's in need is something extraordinary and not what families should do for each other." Diana was quiet for a moment. "Fix this," she finally said. "Tell his clients it was just a harmless prank, that you overreacted." "I can't fix something I didn't do," I said firmly. "And even if I could, I wouldn't lie about what happened. Mark did something cruel and humiliating to a 12-year-old girl. If his clients saw that and decided they don't want to work with someone who behaves that way, that's not my problem to solve." "You'll regret this," Diana said, her voice cold. "Mark won't forget what you've done." "And I won't forget what he did to my daughter," I replied before ending the call. I sat at my kitchen table, trying to process what Diana had told me. Part of me felt guilty. I hadn't wanted Mark to lose clients or damage his professional reputation, but another part of me, a stronger part, felt that perhaps this was exactly what needed to happen. For too long, Mark had behaved badly without consequences. Maybe now he'd finally understand the impact of his actions. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "What did you do? Mark is freaking out." I typed back, "I didn't do anything. But whoever sent that video just showed Mark's clients who he really is." That evening, as I was making dinner, there was a pounding at my front door. I knew before I opened it that it would be Mark. His expensive car was parked haphazardly in my driveway, and I could see his angry face through the window. I checked to make sure Lily was upstairs in her room before opening the door. "How could you do this to me?" Mark demanded, pushing past me into the house. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I didn't do anything," I said, closing the door. "But I'm not sorry someone showed your clients the real you." Mark's face was flushed with anger. "It was a joke. A stupid joke that's now cost me thousands of dollars." "It wasn't a joke," I said quietly but firmly. "It was bullying. And it wasn't the first time, just the first time you picked Lily as your target instead of me." "Oh, spare me the victim act," Mark sneered. "You've always been too sensitive, and now you've passed it on to your daughter." I felt a surge of protective anger. "Don't you dare say another word about Lily." Mark stood in my living room, his expensive suit wrinkled, his normally perfectly styled hair slightly disheveled. For the first time in my life, I saw something other than confidence or contempt in his expression. I saw fear. "You have to fix this," he insisted, lowering his voice slightly. "Call his clients. Tell them you were overreacting. Tell them it was a family prank that got misunderstood." I crossed my arms. "I'm not doing that, Mark. I didn't send the video, but I'm not going to lie about what happened either. Do you know how long I've worked to build these relationships? Years, Andrea. Years of careful networking, of delivering results, of building trust. And now, because of one stupid moment, they're questioning everything." "One stupid moment?" I echoed. "That's not what this was, and you know it. This was just one incident in a pattern of behavior that's gone on our entire lives." Mark threw his hands up in exasperation. "Here we go with the childhood trauma nonsense. We grew up in the same house with the same parents. I don't know why you're always acting like you had it so much worse than everyone else." "We did grow up in the same house," I agreed, "but we didn't have the same experience. You were the golden child, Mark. You could do no wrong. I was just there, an afterthought." "That's ridiculous," he scoffed, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of recognition that told me he knew I was right. "Is it?" I asked. "Remember when I got that scholarship to art school? Mum and Dad didn't even come to the ceremony because they had tickets to your basketball game, a regular season game, not even championships. When I graduated college, you made sure to mention your promotion at every opportunity, so that became the focus of the day instead of my achievement. That's not when I got divorced," I continued, unable to stop now that I'd started. "You told everyone at Thanksgiving dinner that you always knew Brad was too good for me. When I lost my job, you called it predictable. And now you've turned that same cruelty toward my daughter." Mark ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration I recognized from our childhood. "I don't have time for this psychological analysis. I'm about to lose another major client if I can't convince them to stay." "Then perhaps you should be talking to them instead of yelling at me," I suggested. "I need you to make this right," he insisted, his voice taking on a tone I'd heard many times before, one that expected compliance. "No," I said simply. Mark blinked, clearly not expecting this response. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to lie for you. I'm not going to pretend what you did was okay when it wasn't." I took a deep breath. For most of my life, I've tried to keep the peace. I've laughed at your jokes at my expense. I've stayed quiet when you belittled me in front of the family. I've made excuses for your behavior because that was easier than confronting it. But not anymore. All this because of a plastic bug? Mark's voice rose again. "It wasn't plastic," I reminded him. "And it's not just about the bug. It's about years of cruelty that everyone has allowed to continue because it was easier than standing up to you. But I won't let you treat my daughter the way you've treated me. I won't let her grow up thinking it's normal to be belittled and humiliated by someone who's supposed to love her." Mark's expression hardened. "You know what your problem is, Andrea? You've always been jealous of my success. You dropped out of art school to marry that loser Brad, and then you act surprised when your life doesn't turn out the way you wanted. And instead of taking responsibility, you blame everyone else. I felt a familiar sting at his words, but this time I recognized them for what they were, a deflection, an attempt to shift the blame back to me. I refused to let him derail the conversation. "This isn't about me or my choices," I said firmly. "This is about your behavior and the consequences of that behavior. For once in your life, Mark, take responsibility for your actions." Before he could respond, we heard footsteps on the stairs. Lily appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide with surprise and anxiety at the sight of her uncle. "Mom," she said hesitantly. "It's okay, Lily," I assured her, moving to stand between her and Mark. Uncle Mark was just leaving. Mark looked at Lily, and for a moment I thought I saw a flash of remorse in his expression, but it was quickly replaced by his usual mask of indifference. "Hi, Lily," he said, his tone noticeably softer. "Listen, about the other night—" "Don't," I interrupted, my protective instincts flaring. "If you're not here to give a genuine apology, don't say anything at all." Mark's jaw tightened. He looked from me to Lily, then back to me. "Fine," he said. "I'm sorry, Lily. What I did wasn't funny. It was inappropriate. The apology sounded forced, rehearsed, but it was more than I'd expected from him." Lily stepped forward slightly. "Why did you do it?" she asked quietly. The simple question seemed to catch Mark off guard. He hesitated, clearly unprepared for direct accountability. I thought it would be funny," he finally said. "I didn't think it through." "It wasn't funny," Lily said, her voice stronger now. "It was mean." And everyone laughed except Mom. Mark had the decency to look uncomfortable. "You're right," he admitted. "It wasn't funny, and I'm sorry." I waited, watching Mark carefully. Was this a genuine moment of reflection, or just another manipulation to get what he wanted? "Thank you for apologizing to Lily," I said after a moment. "But that doesn't change my position. I didn't send that video to your clients, and I won't lie to help you cover up what happened." Mark's expression hardened again. "Then I guess we have nothing more to say to each other," he said coldly. He turned and walked to the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. "You know, Mom and Dad always said I should look out for you. That as the older brother, it was my job to protect you. Maybe if you hadn't always been so difficult, I could have done a better job of it." With that parting shot, he left, slamming the door behind him. Lily came to stand beside me, leaning against my side. "Is Uncle Mark really in trouble?" I put my arm around her shoulders. "He's dealing with some professional consequences," I explained carefully. "Someone showed his clients the video of what happened at the anniversary dinner, and they're reconsidering whether they want to work with him." "Was it you?" she asked, looking up at me. "No," I said truthfully, "but I'm not sorry it happened. Sometimes people need to face consequences to understand that their actions affect others." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing this. "I didn't want him to get in trouble," she finally said. "I just wanted him to stop being mean." I hugged her close. "I know, sweetheart, and that's because you have a kind heart. But sometimes the only way people learn to stop being mean is when they face consequences for their behavior." The next day, I received a call from my mother. Her voice was tight with anger and disappointment. "I hope you're satisfied," she said without preamble. "Mark's lost 3 major clients. His reputation in the industry is damaged, all because you couldn't let a simple prank go." "Mom," I said as calmly as I could, "I've already told Mark and Diana, and now I'm telling you, I didn't send that video to anyone. But I won't apologize for the fact that it happened. Who else would have done it?" she demanded. "Who else would want to hurt Mark this way? Did it ever occur to you," I asked carefully, "that maybe the person who recorded and shared that video did so not to hurt Mark, but because they were disturbed by his behavior? That maybe they thought his clients deserved to know the kind of person they were working with?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "What are you saying?" my mother finally asked. "I'm saying that actions have consequences, Mom, and maybe it's time Mark learned that. He's your brother," she said, as if that explained and excused everything. "Yes, he is," I agreed. "And as his sister, I've spent decades excusing and tolerating behavior that I would never accept from anyone else. But I won't do that anymore, and I certainly won't let him treat Lily that way." "It was just a joke that went too far," my mother insisted. "It wasn't a joke," I said firmly. "It was cruelty disguised as humor. And everyone at that table except me thought it was perfectly fine to laugh while a 12-year-old girl was humiliated and reduced to tears." Another silence. Then, "Your father and I raised you both better than this." "Did you?" I asked, surprising myself with the question. "Because for as long as I can remember, Mark has been allowed to say and do whatever he wants without consequence. And I've been told to be understanding, to not take things so personally, to let it go for the sake of family harmony." "That's not true," my mother protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "It is true," I countered. "And now, for once, Mark is facing real consequences for his actions, and suddenly everyone expects me to fix it for him. Why? Why is it always my responsibility to smooth things over when he's the one who caused the problem?" My mother sighed heavily. "I don't know what you want me to say, Andrea. This situation is getting out of hand. Mark's talking about legal action now." I felt a jolt of alarm. "Legal action? Against whom?" "Against whoever sent that video," she said. "He's convinced it was either you or James." "It wasn't either of us," I said, though I was now wondering who it could have been. And what exactly would the legal claim be? That someone shared a video of him doing something he actually did? The truth is, an absolute defense against defamation, Mom. "I don't know all the legal details," she said dismissively. "I just know this has gone too far. Your brother's career is suffering, and my daughter's emotional well-being suffered when he deliberately humiliated her," I replied. "Which one of those things do you think should concern me more as a mother?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. When my mother finally spoke, her voice was resigned. "I don't know how we got here," she said. "How did my children end up so at odds with each other?" "We've always been at odds, Mom," I said gently. "You and Dad just chose not to see it. Or maybe you saw it but thought it was normal, acceptable. But it's not normal to tear down your sibling at every opportunity. It's not acceptable to humiliate a child and call it a joke. I never thought," she began, then trailed off. "I know," I said. "That's part of the problem." After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table, turning my phone over in my hands. Despite everything, I felt a surprising sense of calm. For the first time in my adult life, I had stood my ground with my family. I had refused to accept behavior that I knew was wrong. I had protected my daughter. And while the fallout was difficult and painful, I knew I had done the right thing. Later that evening, James came home from his business trip. After we put Lily to bed, I told him everything that had happened. "I'm proud of you," he said when I finished. "Standing up to your family like that couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," I admitted. "But seeing Mark hurt Lily made it necessary. I couldn't let it continue." "Do you have any idea who might have sent the video to Mark's clients?" James asked. I shook my head. "Not really. Chloe was recording that night for the anniversary video, but she's Mark's daughter. I can't imagine she would deliberately hurt her father that way. Unless," James suggested carefully, "she was more disturbed by his behavior than anyone realized." The thought had crossed my mind, but I dismissed it. Chloe had always been the perfect daughter of the perfect couple, at least on the surface. But she was also 17 now, old enough to recognize cruelty when she saw it. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe one of my parents' friends was there and saw it happen. Or maybe someone else at the table was recording too. At this point, I don't think it matters. What's done is done." The next day was Saturday. I spent the morning working on a proposal for a potential client. a small local business looking for a complete brand redesign. The work felt good, purposeful. For the first time in years, I was using my creative skills again, rebuilding the career I'd put on hold after my divorce. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I was surprised to see my father standing on the porch. "Dad," I said, stepping aside to let him in. "I wasn't expecting you." He looked tired, older than his 70 years. "I needed to talk to you in person," he said. "Your mother doesn't know I'm here." We sat in the living room, an uncomfortable silence stretching between us. "Mark came to see us last night," my father finally said. "He was upset, more than I've ever seen him." I nodded but said nothing, waiting for him to continue. "He's lost 5 clients now," my father went on. "Major accounts that made up a significant portion of his business. Diana's worried they might have to sell the vacation house if things don't improve quickly." I felt a twinge of guilt, but pushed it aside. "I'm sorry they're facing difficulties," I said carefully. "But as I've told everyone, I didn't send that video." "I believe you," my father said, surprising me. "That's not why I'm here." "Then why are you here, Dad?" He looked down at his hands, weathered and spotted with age. "I've been doing a lot of thinking since the anniversary dinner, about our family, about the way things have always been between you and Mark." He paused, seeming to struggle with his words. "And I'm beginning to wonder if your mother and I made some mistakes." This was so unexpected that I wasn't sure how to respond. My father had never been one for emotional conversations or self-reflection. "What kind of mistakes?" I asked cautiously. He sighed heavily. "We always thought sibling rivalry was normal, that it was just how brothers and sisters interact. But looking back, I think we allowed Mark to get away with too much. We didn't set proper boundaries for how he should treat you." I felt a lump forming in my throat. After all these years, to hear my father acknowledge this was overwhelming. "Why are you telling me this now?" I managed to ask. "Because I saw the way Mark treated Lily at the dinner," he said quietly. "And for the first time, I saw it through your eyes instead of his. I saw how cruel it was, how deliberately hurtful. And I realized that if I felt that protective anger for my granddaughter, I should have felt it for my daughter too. But I didn't. Or if I did, I pushed it aside because it was easier." Tears pricked at my eyes. "It was easier for everyone to just let Mark be Mark," I said. "I understand that. I did it too for most of my life." My father nodded. "Your mother is having a harder time seeing it. She's always had a blind spot when it comes to Mark. But I think even she's beginning to question things, especially after his behavior last night." "What happened last night?" I asked. "He was angry, defensive. When I suggested that perhaps he should take this as a learning experience, that maybe his behavior had been inappropriate, he lashed out, said some things to your mother and me that were cruel," I supplied. "Belittling? Dismissive?" My father's eyes met mine, and I saw understanding there. "Yes," he said simply, "and it made me wonder how many times you've felt that way because of him, because of us." I reached across the space between us and took my father's hand. "I don't blame you and Mom," I said gently. "Not entirely. We all played our parts in this dynamic. But your mother and I should have done better," he insisted. "We should have protected you the way you're protecting Lily now." We sat in silence for a moment, both processing the weight of his words. "There's something else," my father said eventually. "Something you should know." I tensed, bracing myself for whatever revelation was coming. "Mark's blaming Chloe for the video," he said. "Apparently, she admitted to him last night that she was the one who sent it to his clients." I gasped. "Chloe? But why would she do that?" My father's expression was grim. "According to Mark, she said she was tired of watching him bully people, that seeing what he did to Lily was the last straw." "Oh my God," I breathed. "How did Mark react?" "Not well," my father admitted. "He's grounded her indefinitely, taken away her phone and computer. Diana's beside herself. They're talking about sending Chloe to a boarding school next semester." I felt sick at the thought of my niece being punished so severely for standing up for what was right. "That's extreme," I said. "She's 17, Dad. She'll be in college next year. Sending her away now would be punitive rather than corrective," my father finished. "I know. I tried to tell them that, but they wouldn't listen. They're convinced Chloe acted out of some teenage rebellion rather than genuine moral concern." "Can I talk to her?" I asked. "Maybe I could help mediate this situation." My father shook his head. "Mark has forbidden anyone from discussing the matter with Chloe. He says she's been influenced by outside forces, by which I think he means you." I ran a hand through my hair, frustrated and worried. "So Chloe's being punished for having a conscience, and there's nothing I can do to help her?" "There might be," my father said hesitantly. "That's part of the reason I'm here. Chloe called me this morning from a friend's phone. She's asked if she can come stay with your mother and me for a while, until things calm down at home." "What did you tell her?" "I told her I needed to think about it," he admitted. "But the truth is, I'm inclined to say yes. The atmosphere in Mark and Diana's house right now is not healthy." I nodded. "I think that would be good for her. But Mark and Diana would have to agree." "Mark has already said absolutely not," my father sighed. "But Diana might be more reasonable. She's caught in the middle of all this, and I think she's more concerned about Chloe's well-being than Mark is right now." "Would you like me to talk to Diana?" I offered. "Woman to woman, mother to mother?" My father considered this. "It might help," he acknowledged. "Diana has always respected you, even if she doesn't always show it." I wasn't so sure about that, but I was willing to try for Chloe's sake. "I'll give her a call this afternoon," I promised. My father stood to leave. "There's one more thing," he said, reaching into his pocket. "Chloe asked me to give you this." He handed me a small flash drive. "What's this?" I asked. "I don't know exactly," he said. "She just said you would know what to do with it." After my father left, I sat staring at the flash drive in my hand. What could Chloe have sent me? And what did she think I would know to do with it? Curiosity getting the better of me, I went to my laptop and plugged in the drive. There was a single video file on it titled, "Watch This." I clicked play and immediately recognized the setting, my parents' patio on the night of their anniversary dinner. The camera was positioned in a way that captured the entire table. I could see myself and Lily at one end, Mark and Diana at the other, my parents at the head of the table, and Jessica and her family in between. The video had been edited to include only certain moments from the evening. It started with Mark's comment about my husband being too busy for family. Then it jumped to my mother asking about my job search and Mark's dismissive response. Then to the moment when Mark dropped the cockroach in Lily's drink, followed by everyone's reaction, Mark and Diana laughing, Jessica smirking, my parents' muted disapproval, Lily's tears, and my anger. But the video didn't end there. It continued to show moments I hadn't been aware were being recorded. Mark making snide comments to Diana about my appearance when I went inside to get napkins to clean up the drink. My mother telling my father, "Andrea's always been too sensitive," when they thought no one could hear. Jessica telling her husband that I was playing the victim again. The final clip showed something that made my blood run cold. After Lily and I had left, and the party had moved inside, Mark could be seen pulling Diana aside in the kitchen. "Did you see her face?" He laughed. "Little bug girl, just like her mother. Always thinking she's special when she's just ordinary." Diana smiled uncomfortably. "Don't you think that was a bit much, Mark? She's just a child." Mark's expression hardened. "She needs to learn that the world isn't going to coddle her. Andrea's raising her to be soft, just like she is. I'm doing them both a favor." Still, Diana persisted, maybe you should call tomorrow and apologize properly. Mark scoffed. For what? A little joke? If Andrea wants to storm out and make a scene, that's on her. I'm not apologizing for her inability to take a joke. The video ended there. I sat back, feeling a complex mix of emotions, validation that I wasn't overreacting, anger at the casual cruelty my family had displayed, and a deep sadness that it had come to this. There was a text file on the flash drive as well. I opened it to find a message from Chloe. Aunt Andrea, I'm sorry I didn't stand up for Lily at the dinner. I should have said something, but I was scared of how Dad would react. I've been watching him treat you like this for years, and I've always stayed quiet because I thought that's just how families were. But seeing him do it to Lily, who's never done anything to anyone, made me realize how wrong it is. I sent this video to Dad's clients because I was angry and I wanted him to face consequences for once in his life. Maybe that was wrong of me, but I couldn't think of any other way to make him stop. Now he's saying I've destroyed our family and ruined his career. Mom is torn between us. I don't know what to do. I thought maybe you would, since you've been dealing with him your whole life. I'm sorry if I made things worse. Love, Chloe. I read Chloe's message 3 times, my heart aching for my niece. At 17, she'd done what I hadn't had the courage to do for decades, stand up to Mark's cruelty, regardless of the consequences. I called Diana, who answered with surprising quickness. Andrea, she said cautiously, I didn't expect to hear from you. I'm calling about Chloe, I said directly. Sending her to boarding school mid-senior year seems extreme. Diana sighed. It wasn't my idea. Mark insists it's the only way to get her away from negative influences. Diana, I said gently, I've seen the entire video, including what happened after Lily and I left. There was a sharp intake of breath. What do you mean? Chloe captured everything, including Mark in the kitchen afterward, laughing about what he did, calling Lily bug girl, refusing to consider apologizing. A long silence followed, then barely audible. I told him he went too far. I know, I heard that too, but he didn't listen, did he? No, she admitted. He rarely does. Let Chloe stay with Mom and Dad for a while, I suggested, just until things cool down. Mark won't agree to that, Diana said immediately. You're her mother. Don't you have a say too? Another long pause. Yes, I do. Will you at least consider it, for Chloe's sake? I'll think about it, Diana promised, but I can't make any guarantees. Later that evening, my phone rang. It was Chloe, her voice trembling with emotion. Aunt Andrea, I'm at Grandma and Grandpa's. Mom brought me here an hour ago. That's wonderful, I said, relief flooding through me. How are you feeling? Dad is so angry. He says I betrayed him, she whispered, but I couldn't just watch him keep hurting people. What you did was brave, Chloe. I didn't know what else to do. When he did it to Lily, something inside me just snapped. I know that feeling, I told her softly. It was the same for me when I saw him hurt Lily. 2 days later, my parents invited us all to dinner, a family meeting of sorts. Mark initially refused to come, but eventually relented after my father spoke to him privately. What was said in that conversation, I don't know, but it seemed to have made an impact. The atmosphere was tense as we gathered around my parents' dining room table, the same table where this had all started a week earlier. Lily sat close to me, nervous but composed. Chloe sat between my parents, while Mark and Diana sat across from us. My father cleared his throat. I've asked you all here because our family is at a crossroads, he began. What happened last week, and the events that followed, have exposed some painful truths that we can no longer ignore. Mark shifted uncomfortably in his seat, but remained silent. For too long, my father continued, your mother and I have allowed certain behaviors to continue unchecked. We thought we were keeping the peace, but in reality, we were enabling harm. He looked directly at Mark. Particularly the way you've treated your sister over the years, and now her daughter. Mark's face flushed. So this is a family intervention to tell me what a terrible person I am. No, my father said firmly. This is a chance for us to acknowledge where we've gone wrong and to decide how we move forward, if we move forward at all. My mother, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. I've spent the past week watching the full video that Chloe recorded, she said, her voice thick with emotion, over and over. And I've had to face some uncomfortable truths about how I've failed as a mother. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Andrea. I should have protected you better. I felt my own eyes filling with tears. After all these years, to hear my mother acknowledge this was overwhelming. And Mark, she continued, turning to my brother, your behavior that night and so many times before, it was cruel, not funny, not teasing, cruel. Mark looked stunned. He'd never faced this kind of unified opposition from our parents before. Chloe will be staying with us until graduation, my father announced. Diana has agreed to this arrangement, and it's not up for debate. He fixed Mark with a stern gaze. And during this time, you're going to get help, Mark, professional help, because the way you treat people, your sister, your daughter, even your parents, it isn't healthy. Mark started to protest, but Diana placed a restraining hand on his arm. It's for the best, she said quietly, for all of us. The most surprising moment came when Lily, who had been silent throughout the discussion, finally spoke up. Uncle Mark, she said, her voice small but steady. What you did really hurt my feelings. But I forgive you, because that's what family should do. We should forgive each other and try to do better. The simple wisdom of her words hung in the air. Mark stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then for the first time in my memory, I saw something break in my brother's carefully constructed facade. I'm sorry, Lily, he said, his voice rough with emotion. What I did was wrong. There's no excuse for it. He turned to me next. And I'm sorry for how I've treated you all these years, Andrea. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I'm going to try to be better. I didn't rush to accept his apology. After decades of hurt, I needed time. But I nodded, acknowledging his words. That's a start, I said simply. In the weeks that followed, our family began the slow, difficult process of healing. Mark started therapy as my father had insisted. Chloe flourished living with my parents, her confidence growing away from her father's shadow. Mark's professional reputation took a significant hit, but he managed to retain some clients and began rebuilding his business. This time, I hoped, with a different approach to how he treated people. As for Lily and me, we found a new strength in standing our ground. The experience had shown us both that setting boundaries wasn't selfish or dramatic, it was necessary and healthy. One afternoon, as Lily and I sat in our backyard, she looked up from her sketchbook where she was drawing an intricate butterfly design. Mom, she said thoughtfully, do you think Uncle Mark will ever really change? I considered her question carefully. I don't know, sweetheart. Real change is hard and it takes time, but for the first time he's actually trying. That's something. I'm glad I forgave him, she said. But I'm also glad you didn't let him keep being mean to us. I smiled and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Me too. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves and for others is to stand up and say, no more. Lily nodded, returning to her artwork with renewed focus. In that moment, watching my daughter create something beautiful after all we'd been through, I realized that some bridges, once burned, can be rebuilt stronger than before. And sometimes what looks like an ending is actually a new beginning, a chance to rewrite the rules, to demand respect, and to teach the next generation that love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. It means having the courage to say, this is where I draw the line.